Oh, hello, hello, hello. It has been a while. It has been a while, I mean. Week 7 summary, we are so back with the video.
We are so back, yes.
My name is Fievel and I'm with...
Maracuja, and I do think we both turned 30 since our last vid.
Yes? We are now both old and also wiser, of course. That's how it
Oh,
works.
yes, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, so you see what we're going to go over, the matches, the MVPs, the trades, the leaderboards, the KO leaderboards, and we're actually going to start with a recap of 5, 6, and 7. So let's jump right into week 5.
Right. So let's catch up with what we all already know, but we have never seen on paper so far if you don't check the standings. Week 5, I do think we had our very first forfeit loss and a no-show with the Galarian Phantoms, unfortunately, and we had to replace the trainer so that our league can continue without giving away free wins. And we had the yin and yangs going up versus nothing creative, with Seb taking the win there. Huge power again on a really good roll, I think, on a really good run. He had some, or he could amass a couple of wins in the last weeks, if I remember correctly, and especially versus the Roaring Moon Ravagers with Tenryu, one of our most creative team builders. I went up against the Apple Isle Arcanine, took the win there. Graceland Greninja stole a win from Motor City Max, and the up until last week undefeated Super Tender Bros also with a very convincing win in week 5.
And
Should we go to week 6?
Yes, exactly. We're jumping over to week 6. The quick overview here as well. We have
All
the
right.
Basel City P-Blades facing the, until that point, no spoilers,
Still.
Super Thunder Bros. And it was close. It was closer than I actually anticipated this going to be, but I was very happy taking 1 point from this. Even though it was a 2-1 loss, it was a really interesting game. And the Sleepy Q Bones versus the new trainer in the Galarian Phantoms. Actually, devastating.
Look, my first loss. I
First
did,
loss.
yes. Yes, I did review the sets. I think there were some pretty unfortunate RNG moments, but overall, I really threw. I do think I threw game 2 and game 3 respectively with just going for the wrong place. In hindsight, yeah, but
Yeah,
kudos to him.
really strong
He just
showing.
jumped, yeah, he jumped in, did some really nice trades, and he showed that he is to be, yeah, that we can expect some great things from him. Hopefully, spoilers or no spoilers, should I say?
We'll see. Then we have the Roaring Moon Ravengers versus the Motor City Mugs. Yeah, the Roaring Moon Ravengers were victorious in that one. Also, in the upper field of the scoreboard, they're themselves safely in the playoff range so far.
Yeah, and if you have like just if you can take 5 minutes out of your day and just review his sets, it's always super fun to see what kind of wacky stuff he comes up with. We will see it later in the MVP, but shout out to Trevenant for week 6.
And Nothing Creatives went up against the Graceland Greninjas, also
With a forfeit.
with a forfeit, sadly, taking another W for the Nothing Creatives. As well as the Huge Power versus Apple Isle Arcanines, with the Huge Powers taking another win, bringing their top 5 Pokemon. Very clean selection and cleaned up the other Pokemon, which made them win.
Pretty easy, yeah. And our Rain Core, Goldenrod Galates, with Raging Gold Parry per Archaladon that we see every game. Victorious versus the Yin and Yangs. and the Rillaboom Ogerpon Wellspring combo.
There is a
Which
reason
brings
it's
us to
strong.
week 6. There is a reason it's strong, yeah.
Okay, we're jumping into our now week 7 first game. This is the Puzzle City People. It's the Golden Road Galates.
Yeah, and we just talked about it, or I just talked about it earlier. I do think both trainers were pushing for a spot in Top Cut, and they had to face off against each other. With a win, the Golden Road Galates can keep their chances intact, but the P-Blades can make a major step forward if they can get the win here, which they couldn't, unfortunately. We have learned so far that John, the Golden Road Galates, they are not afraid to go with their true and tested. We have, once again, Raging Bolt, we have Pelipper, we have Archaludon, the big three, supported by Scrafty, Clefable, and Mamoswine as the dark horse, which was a late pickup. I do think week 4 or week 5. And the P-Blades, once again, benching their goat, Dragonite. I do think it hasn't seen play in a while. And instead of Golden Go, instead it's on Golden Go, yeah. That's their number 1 pick, who was also a bench warmer. Surprisingly so, to be fair. But I do think the P-Blades, they just like their wacky little guys, their Eugen Colognes, their Tinglus. And that's what they went with. The newfound core, Oikolon Tinglu, just spreading yawns and sand tombs all over the place. And Zapdos and Ribombi are also looking pretty strong into the opposing matchup with a fast tailwind or with a coaching option. And I do think it was a classic. It was a cool set to watch. It went to 3 games. Pelipper was just a menace in game 1. Quick tailwind and very respectful damage with Weather Ball and Hurricane just meant that the P-Blades were never able to get the Yawn strat going. Also, Pelipper's immunity to Sand Tomb was very crucial, as they masterfully just switched around the Yawns and put Archaludon in a position to sweep. It was really, really nice to watch. Game 2, the P-Blades adjusted, and they could pull off the Yawn strat and the Sand Tomb combo just by delaying it until the very end. And I do think that the adaptation from the Galates was a bit suboptimal, bringing Scrafty and Pelly in the lead. And it proved costly because I do think that Fievel just realized that Pelipper is indeed a big threat and just sniped it on turn 2. And with a quad weakness to Fairy, Scrafty was forced to go Terra. And with 2 months down, the P-Blades just pivoted skillfully around the Thunderclap Mind Games and locked up game 2. Game 3 was a back and forth for a while, and there were really slim margins, but in the end, I do think it was just good team building with the decisive Terraflying on Archaludon. That was, in my opinion, the difference maker for that 3rd game, which means that the Galates and the P-Blades, they are still neck and neck for that top cut spot. I'm really interested. It's really getting interesting to see who will make those top cut places.
Yeah, it was a really nice set. My opponent played really well around my shenanigans, and after the week prior when I was up against the Thunder Bros, I feel like the Oink Tinglu set was actually really good, but it was not time to shine for this matchup. Might be time to bring back my true and trusted Dragonite for what's to come. We jump right into the next one. That will be Sleepy Cubones versus the Super Thunder Bros. We have Garganacl, Landorus, Therian, Orgapon Hearthflame, Hitmontop, Klefki, and Basilisk Legion Female on the Sleepy Cubone side. Garganacl proved to be a menace so far in the draft. Lando and Orgapon terrifyingly offensive, but also have a lot of utility with Intimidate, with Follow Me's, with Spiky Shields, with just so many options on an Orgapon. I don't need to tell any of you that. Double Intimidate, in fact, with Hitmontop, and ranks the support from Klefki, and I'm curious to see what the underrated Basilisk Legion Female can bring to the table here. We've actually also seen some Basilisk Legion Female action in Champions. It's actually very exciting, but this is not Champions. We are still in the Terra format. Anyway, so yeah, I was very excited to see what's going to happen with those. And on the other side, we have Torkoal, Mian Shao, Tornadus, Therian, Walking Wake, Bronzong, and Poltergeist. Bronzong being a new trade that happened in week 5 for the Super Thunder Bros. Did anyone say Intimidate? Mian Shao is here with Inner Focus, Bronzong with Trick Room option, potentially enabling Torkoal go crazy, and Tornadus with potential Tailwind, giving this team a lot of different options and different modes, with the Walking Wake in Sun that can go fast, or with the Trick Room mode where Torkoal can go wild. So let's see what the players are doing. In game 1, we see the Trick Room comp arrive on the Thunder Bros field, Bronzong being able to set it up as well with a scary Terra Fire in front of Basque Legion, but nonetheless it is enough to set it up. And it's unfortunately meeting Lefkey with a Prankster Rain Dance. So Torkoal in Trick Room can never really reach its full potential, and Lefkey keeps it in check, also enabling the Basque Legion to just consistently keep spamming those boosted Muddy Waters. And when I say consistently, then I mean it misses both targets back to back, and it didn't even matter because the Sleepy Cubones take game 1. And in game 2, we see a change of lead on both sides. Ogrepon and Walking Wake trading off each other early on, making it so Mienshao and Klefki stand next to each other, were giving Mienshao the opportunity to fake out a Prankster Rain Dance and get that eruption off, with Torkoal in the sun saying bye-bye to Klefki and winning the Weather War. But Basque Legion is just too bulky and too strong, picking up KOs after KOs with those Shadow Balls and making this a 2-0 victory for the Sleepy Cubones. And so also the Super Thunder Bros show that they are amongst us mortals and have lost a game. Very exciting. How did it feel? Quick interview. How did it feel missing 2 Muddy Waters on both targets?
I'm just happy that it didn't really matter, but I was
Yes.
feeling the tilts there
Thank
with
God
the
it didn't
back-to-back
matter.
double miss. I have to say I put a lot of respect on Vivian just in the builder, because I do know she's a phenomenal trainer, and I do think she's the best from all of us. And so I really just thought I spam some damage moves, which helped. I mean, they missed Taunt due to Muddy Water accuracy drop, and in the end game of game 2, they missed the Bleak Wind Storm, so it was a bit RNG heavy, to be fair. But yeah, I do think it feels amazing, just bouncing back from the loss in game 6, going up versus the still, to that point, undefeated Thunder Bros. So I'm pretty happy with that, yeah, to be fair.
Nice. Alrighty, we go over to
Exactly.
Ravengers.
Versus nothing creative. Just a little thing to add, I do think, like, especially game 2 with in my set versus Thunder Bros, I just calced everything. The Terra Water Higher Steam Survival from Hearthflame was calced, and everything else. So it was nice. Just I respected everything in the builder. I just went over every possible calc to make sure that I have those pivotal slim margins when needed. But enough of that, and let's continue with the Roaring Moon Ravagers and the Nothing Creative. As I already mentioned, like in the summary of 2 weeks earlier, he is one of the most creative team builders in this league, if not the most creative, with I do think like 2 or 3 MVP sets already, Tenryu and the Roaring Moon Ravagers, and you never know what to expect of him, and if he might have found just the set that he needs to steal the win. On paper, it looks quite normal. We have Fluttermane, we have Roaring Moon, Gothitelle, Cornerstone, and double Intimidate with Taurus Blazebrute and Gyarados. Nothing Creative went with Heatran, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, and Excadrill, with which they do like a lot, and they fleshed it out with the very scary speed boost setup Espathra. And game 1, the Ravagers punished a passive play in the mid game with a Bull Cup on Tauros, and I do think it was the Icy Wind miss on Ogerpon that sealed the fate of the game, and even the ally switch on Cresselia, which was very nice, just couldn't help. Nothing Creative crawl back. And game 2 was all about Fluttermane. I do think Seb adapted very nicely and went for setup strat with a Spathra, and it seemed to work out perfectly until he hit a wall. And that wall was Focus Sash 0 IV in HP Fluttermane that just survived stored power and revenge KO'd the bird. And after that, it just showed what it can do with 0 HP invest and 0 HP IV. It just paint split all health back. And the Terra Water made sure that it doesn't go down to anything from Heatran, and I do think the game was over after Espathra went down. And honestly, I do think this matchup just shows how far creativity in the builder can get you. The Ravagers moved up to 4th place, I believe, in the standings with this decisive win. But even with the loss, Nothing Creative still holds firmly the number 3 spot in our standings, and top cut for them is basically guaranteed at this point.
I think it's very nice to see how creativity can be so effective. Like any one of us can just play wacky stuff, but it is even more beautiful if it actually perfectly makes sense and does exactly what it does. Like using such a set into such a bulky lineup, really, really nice. Fits good. And then go to the next game, which would be the Yin and Yangs versus the Graceland Greninjas. Here we have the Yin and Yangs with their beloved Ogerpon, Wellspring, Rillaboom, Basculegion, Murkrow, Torracat, Screamtail, a lineup we've seen before as well. The usual Yin Yang's balance comp with the Fire, Water, Grass coverage, Intimidates, Pranks the Tailwind, we have Fake Outs, we have all the good stuff that is needed to play nice Pokemon. And I know that Yin and Yangs are really well versed in taking advantage of all these tools. Then we have the Gem Power, we have Entei, Tornadus, Primarina, Grimmsnarl, and Magnezone on the other side. We have scary coverage with Ice and Electric, the good old Bolt Beam pairing. We have Pow together with Entei, that is also known to be really scary with potential extreme speed and sacred fire stuff. And we have double prankster support. So let's see what the gamers are bringing to the table. We have game 1, and we see a Rain Dance from Murkrow enabling Basculegion, taking care of Mon after Mon. It is really just nuking the field. And no, it was a crit on Primarina, but actually not sure if that mattered. It was Terra, Water, Basculegion. I don't know if it was Swift Swim or if it was adaptability. But
I don't think it mattered.
yeah.
It was Swift Swim because Selvin wasn't up.
Okay. Oh yeah.
It outsplit.
True. Actually, it was only full state at the start. Well, yeah. Okay. Living the Sucker Punch too, thanks to the Terra, and just bulldozing everything in its path. Eventually dying to the recoil of Wave Crash, but the damage was already done. Ogerpon and Rilla are cleaning up what's left. Game 2, and we see Terra Dark Entei actually potentially prepping for that Iron Crown that just didn't show up, unfortunately, for the Graceland Greninjas. But nonetheless, we see more counterplay from the Greninjas, picking up some kind of KOs here and there, and overall, it was just sadly not enough to push back, and in the end, it was the Yin and Yangs that take this 2-0 in week 7.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We move on to The Galarian Phantoms versus Huge Power. And it's our new trainer, Farukht versus Jason. And I do think both are still in place for a top cut finish. And yeah, it's really, really nice just to see how the standings flesh out in those later stages of the draft league. We have like some clear cut favorites for top cut in first and second place. And apart from that, I do think everything is still open. So with a strong finish, you might just sneak in there, which was also the goal for both of our trainers here. The Phantoms team is pretty scary, to be fair, especially the trades that Farokh did when he joined addressed some glaring weaknesses, and they decided to go with Indeedee, Sneasler, Armarouge, Moltres, Muk, and Landorus this time. The Huge Power left Weezing Gigas at home for once and went with Urshifu, Rapid Strike, the Disquake, Duo, Kilowattrel, and Crocodile, also Chi-Yu, who had a great showing last week with the Nasty Plot set, and to finish it off with Lapras and King Gambit. A lot of dark types, so to me it just seems that they respected the Indeedee or Armarouge combo a lot and the potential expanding for spam. But there was none of that. It was Sneasler and Moltres Galar. It was a free Tailwind for the Phantoms turn 1, and they just swept. It was over before it even started, game 1, and it was a very nice throat spray Moltres set to ensure that a potential +2 with Berserk just can sweep the entire field. Huge Power tried to adapt by matching Tailwind in game 2 with a Kilowattrel lead, but the Phantoms were one step ahead. Leading Indeedee meant that Jason had to double it up to prevent Trick Room, and Landorus just clicked Sensor Storm. It hit every Sensor Storm, and once again the Moltres came in, staggered Tailwind, and ended the game swiftly. It was pretty decisive. And I do think the most interesting turn was the Terra on Landorus to ensure that it lives Surging Strikes, because had Jason just doubled the Moltres that turn, the game would have looked quite differently. But unfortunately they didn't. So Farukh still undefeated since joining our shortened season. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We move on to our last game for this week, and it's last but not least, it's the Motor City Mugs against the Apple Isle Arcanines. We have on the Motor City Mugs side Rigirav, Ursaluna, Electabuzz, Thunderous, Scizor, Hydrapple versus the Toxtricity, Tinkaton, Hydreigon, Lokix, Smeagol, and Okidoki of the Arcanine side. The Motor City Mugs with a classic Trick Room team, bringing Electabuzz to safely set up Trick Room with Farigiraf and Volt switching to bring in Vorsaluna. It's play by the book and it just works really well. Pretty straightforward game plan here. We have the Apple Isle Arcanine bringing their spread damage monster this draft league so far. Toxtricity with the support of Tinkaton, Smeagol, as well as their Hydreigon for the important ground immunity. Low kicks to pressure normal types, and really any type with its tinted lens, I think is the ability called, and priority, as well as Okidogi for fake out, like even more fake out. We have, we see like 3 fake out users and some big hitters that just makes for very exciting stuff. So let's see. Game 1 went down exactly how you want to see it as a Trick Room connoisseur. Follow me, Trick Room, followed by Volt Switch to get the Flame Orb activated in the same turn. The Apple Isle Arcanine pivoted really well, but in the end it wasn't enough, and the Big Bear goes to town after the only Levitate-mon got facaded, and so Earthquake was just really devastating into all the Earthquake Pokemon, Earthquake weak Pokemon, and the Mugs take game 1. And in game 2, game 2 brings us a Terra Steel on Farigiraf, just barely living the heat wave and getting burned setting up Trick Room and dying to the burn, which means that Ursaluna gets a free switch with it, which is exactly what you want to see if you play this strategy. And it's an incredible positioning, quite unfortunate for the Apple Isle Arcanine. Low Kicks and Co. do not manage to come back from that, even with their priority that they provide. And that's a 2-0 win for the Motor City Mox in that case.
Yeah, especially game 2 was pretty rough with a heat wave roll and the ensuring just a free switch after getting Trick Room up. Yeah, I think it was everything just worked out in Sensatio's favor, which is good for him. He's a 2-5, maybe a dark horse if they can win out the run to still make top cut.
Exactly. That brings us to our next segment. MVP of this week, most creative set. And we have 2 weeks of MVPs for you. And funny, from the same trainer, it is the Fluttermane and the Trevenant.
What makes them so special? I do think I just mentioned it earlier. Fluttermane was 0 IV in HP to make sure that Pain Split just heals the most amount and does the most amount of damage to the opponents. And the week prior, they went with a Imprison, Facade, and Earthquake Trevenant to just completely neuter the Ursaluna from Sensatio, which is amazing that it worked. Amazing to have pulled it off, which makes the Ravagers. I do think that Tenryu just took like 80 or 90% of all MVPs home so far. That's amazing.
That is amazing, and we're not going to like spread the love or anything. If you have the most creative set, you're gonna end up on the most creative set segment here. And if you want to end up here, you want to have to be more creative than Michi, which is not an easy thing to do. So, trades. Going to the trades, we have. Well, here's just the trades that happened from our new trainer Farouk. We gave him 5 trades he can do.
And 5 trades he did.
I just now realized that I'm showing the wrong trades. This is actually the 3 trade variant. Oops. Well, more trades happened. Actually, let me quickly check what it was. Yes, so here we go. It was Metagross, Infernape, Garchomp, and Milotic. They went for Moltres Galar, Mach, Motor City Mox and Shambles, Regidrago, Landorus, Incarnate, and Avalok. So that's actually the trades that happened. But
And all of them are already putting in work. We had Avalok and we had Moltres and Landorus just completely punishing opponents week 6 and week 7. So those were some pretty important and pretty good trades.
exactly. Now we're going to go over the Pokemon kill leader standings.
Let's have a look. Yeah.
First
Do you
place.
think? Yeah, we start to see a lot of players, a lot of trainers that had a lot of games to play that went to a lot of 2-1 sets that they're just leading. We have Sensatio, we have Ursaluna with 19 KOs in number 1. We have the Roaring Moon Ravagers with Fluttermane in number 2 with 18. And also like pretty good differentials, to be fair. And I do think there's a lot of how do you say? It's very broad. There's not really a clear-cut MVP for all the teams, but a lot of Pokemon doing pretty well.
It was shocking for me to see Tingaloo so high up. I did not realize I was playing it this much. But yeah, nice. Maybe I bring in more, maybe I bring it less. I don't know. Maybe I just need to learn how to play the Pokemon even better than I do it already. But that's me rambling. Let's go over the standings. The most important thing. In first place, we have Maracuya VGC. Yours truly here.
Yes, with a pretty high differential of plus 27, if I might add.
Just cleaning up those points. There's nothing about that. Just very well. As well as Vivian in the second place and Seb on the third place. It is interesting to me because that's kind of what was to be expected. Seb being just a very experienced drafter. He has played in like, I don't know, he said like 20 draft leagues, which is an insane number. Maybe he was exaggerating, maybe he wasn't. And Vivian just being an amazing pilot, and then the Sleepy Cubones on top. Like just a very strong trio. Hopefully I can still jump into the playoffs, but we will see. After all, I'm facing the first place team now next.
Yeah, but I do think it opens up pretty much after the third place with a 4-8 or 4-9, all with a 4-3 or 3-4 record, which just means if you can win 2 or 3 more games, you might just make it. So yeah, just stay in the kitchen, just cook some funny stuff. I know with champions being out, we are all pretty bored of Regulation F specifically. But yeah, just hang in there. I do think that everything is still up for grabs. And you just have to make top cut to win the draft league, because after that, it's just an KO system, right? To just win it out. That should be possible.
Hell yes. So we have 4 more weeks actually ahead of us. So anything's still possible. Good. Well, unless there's anything to add from your side, we are through with today's video.
Yeah, nothing to add.
Alrighty then, guys. Have fun in the kitchen brewing, and see you guys.
See you guys soon. Hopefully next week.
Hopefully. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.